like a boss.
All right, people, I hope you guys enjoyed this last part of the interview. It was a pure pleasure to interview Mr. Greene, and then after this, I'm going to be posting the complete interview. Okay, and don't forget we have a Robert Greene book club in the Mindful Attraction Academy where we review all of his books. So I want you guys to be part of that. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoy this one. Check out the Robert Greene book club in the description down below, and let's begin.
But let me ask you this. I have some questions to ask you. Is it okay? What's the time that we have right now? I don't want to
Um,
take much of your time.
how much more time were you thinking of?
I don't know. 10 hours.
No, I don't have
I'm
that.
kidding with you, Robert. I'm kidding with you, man. Give me like 10, 20, 15 minutes. Because there's some parts of your book, like for example, let me give you an example. Like when you say destroy your enemies, but you also have a chapter that says keep your enemies close. Which ones do you destroy and annihilate completely, and which ones do you keep close? That's the part I'm kind of.
Well, it depends. It depends on who you are, where you are in life. The Crush Your Enemy Totally chapter isn't about you individually, Delexis, going out and crushing your enemy totally. That's kind of cruel and ridiculous.
Okay.
It's about if you have a country, a business, any kind of group, and you're facing an enemy that's powerful, right? It's how the tech business operates here in America, in Silicon Valley, or in China, or anywhere else. When a business feels like there's a competitor out there, they don't do half measures. They go out and buy them out. They crush them completely. Microsoft did this with Netscape Navigator. Google is doing this constantly. Facebook's doing it with Instagram. You destroy your enemy, you incorporate them so they can't challenge you anymore. So it's kind of a business dynamic. I mean, if you had somebody out there who is trying to ruin your life, then that law might apply. It has to be in a very strong situation where it's kind of life or death, or they're trying to really destroy your reputation. And in that case, you can't be naive, and you have to go full throttle to get rid of them. You have to find some way of making it clear that they can't go this far, And I talk in the war book about deterrence, about showing your strength to an enemy and showing how strong and that you are willing to do something nasty, and that'll make them retreat because they're afraid of that. But the other side is that we often make the mistake. You're talking about law number 2 in the 48 laws about your friends and enemies, about never put too much trust in friends, always use enemies. I think that's what you're referring to. The thing is, if you're in business or you have, a music band, a rock band or something, your first instinct is to hire people that you're friends, that you know, that you're familiar with, and that's always very dangerous because with friends and acquaintances come all kinds of egos and problems, and it gets very emotional. It's like a relationship. The best thing to do is to work with someone who was your enemy, to say, look, we didn't agree about anything in the past. I know you hate my guts, but I respect you, and I think I'd like you to work for me or work with me on this project, etc. Doing that, you shift the dynamic. You take somebody who maybe is very wary and suspicious of you, and you overwhelm them with an emotion that turns them around, and they go, maybe Delexis isn't so bad after all, and they're motivated to work for you, whereas your friend is not motivated to impress you. Your friend wants you to impress them, to be a friend, whereas the enemy wants to prove themselves that they are worthy of the show of respect that you suddenly gave them. It's a reverse psychology that's extremely powerful. And I got that from Abraham Lincoln, because he said, when I forgive an enemy or I work with an enemy, they're no longer my enemy, right? So normally in war, you want to kill them, you want to bloody them, and then there's a price to pay and you get bloodied a little bit. But when you do this strategy, which is very Sun Tzu-like, and you're basically saying you forgive them and you want to work with them, they're no longer your enemy. You've gotten rid of an enemy. You didn't have to kill anybody. You didn't have to do any bloodshed. bloodless victories are the greatest victories of all, according to Sun Tzu.
Mhm.
And that's what, turning an enemy into a friend will do for you.
Okay. It's like in that chapter where you talk about in power, winning their hearts over,
Yeah,
and rather than killing them, you win their hearts over, and that's
very powerful.
yeah. Now I got two more questions, Robert.
Okay.
Two more. What are your top three historical figures and why? Because I know you like, you know, I know you have a lot, Robert, but
I do have a lot. Um, well, obviously, I'd have to have Machiavelli,
Mhm.
um, because he's a good friend of mine. He's a kindred spirit, and I really really love his story. So people have this idea that Machiavelli was this really evil, conniving person, very powerful, etc., who was just basically an evil figure. It's not true. He was a diplomat, a very low-level diplomat. He wasn't powerful at all, but he had seen a lot. He was a diplomat for the Republic of Florence, so he traveled on various missions for the Republic of Florence, and he saw a lot, and he observed, and he was a true man of the Renaissance. So not only did he write The Prince, he wrote a history of Florence, which was one of his best books, the Florentine Histories. He also wrote poetry, really nice poetry. He was an incredible seducer of women, even though he was very physically not attractive at all.
Mhm.
And he wrote one of the most wicked plays that have ever been written ever, a play that completely ridiculed the Catholic Church, that was so disrespectful of sacred things. And when you read the book, you can't believe he got away with it. He had an incredible sense of humor. So Machiavelli would be high up on that list. Um, I'd have to choose like a really beautiful woman in history that I would want to meet.
Cleopatra?
Probably Cleopatra. I mean, who else? She'd be the most legendary. Um,
Queen Elizabeth.
huh?
Queen Elizabeth. You talked a
Well,
lot about her.
she wasn't quite so seductive.
Okay.
But the thing about Cleopatra was, I have a particular weakness for very intelligent women. I like women who are kind of strong and intelligent. I think it's really seductive to see a form of female intelligence, which is different from male intelligence, not inferior or superior, just different.
Mhm.
And she was incredibly intelligent, incredibly crafty, but really smart, incredibly well read. She had read all the books of all the great Greek philosophers. Um, and she was just this very interesting, dramatic person who knew how to create an incredible sense of theater to whatever she did. And I'm someone who's very kind of, I have a great weakness for people like that who are theatrical, particularly women. So I would probably like to meet her to see if the reality was true, because supposedly she wasn't the most beautiful woman in the world. She had a bit of a beak. And yeah, we don't know, but we don't have any images from her. The only images we have of her are on coins. But we have some people who describe that she had a bit of a nose, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just would be very excited and interested to meet her. And then the third, I would probably want to meet Leonardo da Vinci.
Let's go! I knew it because Mastery is based on Leonardo.
But,
Sorry for
he was
scaring you.
so weird, and I like weird people. I've always, ever since I was a rock and roll kid, I always liked that line of Jimi Hendrix, "Wave your freak flag high." So Leonardo, he kind of waved his freak flag high.
Oh, he was
He was
free.
so different. There was nobody else like him, and he knew it, and he wasn't afraid of it. And he was so far ahead of his time. Back in those days, people treated animals as if they had no soul, because that's what Christianity believed. They were just these things that you could use. But Leonardo da Vinci believed animals had souls. He literally said as much. And he would go into the marketplace in the cities that he was in. People would sell birds in cages. He would buy them, and then he would set the birds free. He had tremendous empathy for animals, which was way ahead of his time. He had his interest in science. He designed things like he designed a tank in one of his drawings. He designed an airplane. He designed things of warfare and architectural things. Of course, he never made them, but they were way ahead of his time. He was so strange and uncanny, almost as if he was a god, or almost as if he had divine powers. And I would have liked to meet him and know him to see, because supposedly he was also a very, very charming person.
Yeah.
Who was a great musician, who played the equivalent of the guitar and would sing, and he would write poetry, etc. He was a true Renaissance man. So I would probably choose him as my third person.
Yeah.
That'd be quite a threesome right there, though.
I think he's the greatest master of them all. Like he's just he was the embodiment of genius. You know, it's just incomprehensible how somebody like that could have existed. You know, like.
You should go, since you're in London. Maybe you already have. I can't remember if it's the National Gallery or if it's the British Museum. I think it's the National Gallery. They have the most magnificent Leonardo da Vinci painting of all. I don't remember the title. I think it's The Virgin and the Rocks.
Sorry.
It's the most surreal painting. I stood there last time I was in London. I stood in front of it for several hours. I was so entranced. Anyway, just now that you're in London,
No, I saw it. I went to draw it with my drawing pad. I went and drew his, because when you draw, let me tell you something, Robert. When you draw Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, you see it from a whole nother level. This dude was like a camera, like the optics, like the little lighting. I mean, this guy has so much love for everything that he touched. That's the one thing I envy, Robert, is how much love he had for everything. You know, like it's I can't do that. You know?
Yeah, you can.
How do you become that? Like, not him, but how do you become this curious, absorbing person? I mean, how do you develop that discipline? That's my problem that I have with that.
You read Mastery.
Oh, yeah, I'm in that. No, man, I swear to God, Robert, that book transformed me, man.
Okay.
It's you know, it's funny. I'm not even halfway done. Your books, I'm a slow reader with your books, man.
Oh, that's good.
I chew my food, you know, like.
Yeah, that's good.
For like 2 years, I've been reading The Laws of Human Nature, and I'm like halfway done. You know?
Oh, okay. I respect that.
You know, Robert. All right, man, Robert, man. I'm so happy that you come on and you talk to my subscribers, man. Like they say that I'm like your biggest spokesperson. I'm always talking about your books.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I've sent so many people to your books, man. I don't even give a fuck about the commission. I don't care. Don't even give me anything in the Amazon. I just want them to read your books because, yeah, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Someday I'll meet you. I hope that would be nice.
Man, Robert, I'm gonna paint you, and I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna do a nice little painting of you because it's because of you I've been painting, dude. So why not paint the person who inspired?
All right. Well, here's one suggestion.
What's up?
Take some shrooms and then paint me.
Oh, Robert, I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that. Let's go. I will do that 100%.
That's what I want to see. Okay.
I'll send it to you. I would love to meet you. By the way, your protege, what's his name?
Brian
Holiday. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was like, when he wrote his book and Ego is the Enemy, I was like, why would I read his book? I'll just read Robert's books.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong, man. Like, he's legit, man. You whatever comes, it's like whatever comes from you is real, you know? Like, and that's the difference between you and all the other authors out there. Your books, there's a soul to your books that there is in any other book, man. I don't want to flatter you too much because you.
That's right.
You know?
I'm eating it up.
Yeah, man. Well deserved, man. Well deserved, man. Anything else you want to say before you leave, man? I mean, I don't know.
I think we've covered everything. It was a really fun interview. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm gonna pause it, end it, and then I can say bye to you without this. Okay.